What's up, guys? It's the weekend, which means that we get to catch up on all the tech news that came out this week, and I get to do another episode of Tech News. There's been some cool stuff in hardware and some big best stuff coming out in software. But before I go through anything, I do need to remind you about this month's giveaway. Whether you still go to LAN parties, maybe you have some remote work you need to accomplish, or you just like a monitor you can take with you, these 144Hz gaming monitors are absolutely fantastic. I've used one for the last year, so I wanted to give one away to you guys as well. I absolutely love it, and you can see how to enter down in the description below. All right, guys, so software is the star of the show. There is some hardware news, but let's talk specifically about Nvidia IO. This is a technology that came out with Nvidia's latest driver updates, which you can download right now. If you own Portal, you can actually get the remastered version for free, which has this built in. And what it does is handle the texture decompression that is usually handled by your CPU. So typically your game is installed in your SSD. That information is compressed to obviously help save space. It's handled to your CPU, which handles the decompressing, and then that information is relayed to the GPU, and the CPU helps render that image out. This instead will be handled by the Nvidia GPU's CUDA cores, meaning it'll be much faster. What that means is that there'll be faster texture pop-ins and less notable artifacting due to resources having to be loaded off the SSD and then decompressed. This will make a big difference in games where essentially scenes are switching very fast, and it can be done using high resolution like 4K. The big thing about this is that means that you can actually compress files down further so that overall footprint is smaller. So that means a game that might be 40 gigs would only have to be 30 gigs to relay the same amount of information. And that in itself is a gigantic win. Honestly, being able to make games smaller, like I know storage is cheap, but like we're all running out of space. These games, some of these games are like 300 gigabytes. It's getting ridiculous. So having technology that reduces the size of like what we need to store, fantastic. And I think it's actually going to be a very big talking point about NVIDIA GPUs that goes hand in hand with DLSS. Ray tracing is still something I don't think enough of us care about to really matter. The next thing I'm going to talk about, you're not going to find any articles on, but I recently heard around the water cooler that Starfield may be the first game that has FSR 3.0, the long promised basically competitor to frame generation from Nvidia, because this is going to be the first exclusive AMD partner title. They may be using this to essentially launch the game and also to make sure that they're getting eyes on their GPUs in this new technology. Would it be shocking considering that we're coming up on a year since FSR 3 was announced and RDNA 3 with a bunch of features that a lot of AMD users are waiting for to compete against Nvidia? Frame generation is one of the only distinct advantages I would say Nvidia has if you're talking about rendering frames. FSR being basically software, however, is going to be something that can be implemented in way more games because it's not a hardware-based solution. And if it's at least 80% as good as DLSS, it will give another compelling reason that AMD honestly needs to sell their GPUs, but to give us more access to technologies that we want. So again, I heard that Starfield is going to be launching FSR 3. That's like, we're going to be getting an announcement coming up to it, which should be in the next month or so. So very excited to see what that, basically holds. Now, speaking about AMD, it was recently reported that Lisa Su was going to abandon TSMC and potentially do their all of their products, at least in the GPU market, with Samsung and potentially their CPUs as well. Lisa Su has denied this rumor, saying that they have no plans to move from TSMC. And my thought is basically TSMC has done so well for AMD that unless Samsung provides a better node manufacturing process, there's not going to be a real reason to jump ship. AMD has such a big advantage when it comes to iterating on their own node. Like Intel is still playing catch up, and that's been kind of the situation we're in, although there is some good news out of Intel. Intel's new CPUs, or the Raptor Lake refresh, which will be an uplift, but I don't expect anything dramatic, are going to be coming in at the same current price, supposedly, as current generation Intel. This makes a lot of sense to me. Right now, the CPU and GPU market is kind of in the toilet. Like, computer sales are just not flying the way they need to. These companies are trying to pick up profit wherever they can. Iterating on their current architecture allows them to produce it at a lower cost, and if they're selling it at a lower cost than what they released last time, that technically means less profit, but obviously they're hoping to make up with that in volume. And if it is a 21% increase over current gen, it will be enough for, I'd say like a third of the people who want to buy this stuff to kind of jump ship and do that. So, hey, if it's a lower price, I'm all for it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is the 4060 Ti 16GB. This probably went under the nose of a lot of people. Reviews are out on this card, and yeah, it's basically a 4060 Ti 8GB with maybe a 5 to 10% difference in performance across the board on average. And even though it's got 16 gigabytes of VRAM, it is a $500 card. To give you guys context, you can go on eBay, at least in the United States, and get a 3080 Ti for around the same cost. A dramatically faster GPU that, yes, maybe it has less VRAM, but it's still going to be a much better buy. And what's sad is that Nvidia doesn't even really care that this is a terrible value. Like, Linus Tech Tips actually talked about this, that Nvidia is making so much money in their AI market that they can release this and make no money, and it just basically becomes a tax write-off for them. I don't know anybody who wants this card. Like, the thing of it is that 16 gigabytes of VRAM really only matters if you're jumping up into that 1440p or 4K range. And to anybody who really wants to play AAA titles in that, that resolution, you're going to be going like 4070, 4070 Ti or higher to have like a good experience anyway. And so this card makes no sense to me. Like $500, buy a 3080 Ti, buy a 6900 XT or a 6950 XT, right? Like, it's just a bad card across the board. So there you have it, guys. Those were the most interesting things that I was able to see this week. If you have some stuff, you can post it down below. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up. If you thought it was trash, leave me a thumbs down. Remember to get subscribed and hit that bell icon so you know when these videos drop next. I'm gonna be having a couple B-backs. I'm gonna be thinking about doing an updated 4090 versus 79 XTX build, comparison, because it's been enough time that I think it's good revisiting. I'm gonna be doing upgraded like a PS5 with keyboard and mouse because there's been so many driver updates. So I've got some stuff in the works, but as always, I'll see all of you next time, and thanks for watching.